Rick Ross just pulled off one of the smartest moves ever on Big Meech, and now everyone is talking about it. There are even rumors going around that Meech might have ordered a hit on him. But here's the twist. Everyone saw this coming except for Big Meech. The whole internet is glued to this drama, like it is the last episode of the best reality TV show. But really, what was Meech thinking, trusting an ex-cop in the first place? Let us take a closer look. Rick Ross knew exactly what he was doing and what would happen next. And of course, we cannot forget about 50 Cent. He is always involved when things get messy like this. Ever since Rick Ross threw Big Meech under the bus, he has been throwing serious shade at both Big Meech and Lil Meech on social media. But here's the wildest part. Just a few months ago, Big Meech was hugging up on Rick Ross like he was some kind of hero right after getting out of prison. Instead of keeping his distance and showing love to the person who stayed loyal to him, Meech decided to link up with Ross, even though Ross has been one of 50 Cent's biggest rivals for many years. 50 Cent did not expect Big Meech to treat Rick like an enemy, but seeing Meech smiling and taking pictures with Ross, acting like they have been friends for years, had to hurt 50. That kind of betrayal hit him deep, straight to his gut. And as if that was not enough, Big Meech made things even worse by hanging out with Floyd Mayweather, while Lil Meech, just to spite 50, started talking about real power. Seriously, is that how you repay a man who handed your son $5 million and kept you in the game all these years? People may say 50 made money off Big Meech's name, but there is much more to this story. At least 50 Cent felt something from it, but what has Rick Ross done except play Big Meech like a game of chess? Ross knew this whole situation was going to blow up, and he handled it like a pro, chasing clout, soaking up all the attention and feeding his own ego. And when things started to get heated, what did he do? He backed off so quickly that no one even noticed until it was too late. I mean, how do you explain that? The moment things got messy, Ross suddenly had a shoulder injury and made sure the whole internet knew about it. He said, "My shoulder broke, but we are still getting to the money, still counting paper. This is not a pump and dump, baby." Like, suddenly we were supposed to feel sorry for him? But hold on, it gets even crazier. Rick Ross was not just using the shoulder injury to step back from Big Meech, he was also using it to avoid his own fans, the ones he tricked with his cryptocoin, Boss Token. People online started calling him Rick Ross because of how he scammed them. The way Rick Ross pulled the rug out from under everyone who trusted him with their money. Man, he fell hard too. And let us not forget, it was just days after he fronted on Big Meech and got caught that he suddenly ended up with that busted shoulder. The timing of that? It speaks for itself. Now here's the real kicker. Word on the street is that Rick Ross was the one telling Big Meech to reach out to 50 Cent to boost his cash flow. You honestly cannot make this stuff up. Now, Big Meech is left with nothing but his name, and that is why other artists are keeping their distance from him like he has some kind of bad luck. Even those Wingstop franchises everyone thought Big Meech would make money from? Rumor has it that Rick Ross secretly sold most of them off and kept only a couple, just so he could use that money for his real estate hustle. And get this, if Rick Ross had not been a roadblock, Big Meech could have made it. Everybody knows how wild 50 Cent can get when it comes to his enemies. Even DJ Vlad says it, if you end up on 50's bad side, you do not want to be there. He will tear everything apart just to make his point. He will burn it all down if you cross him. He will cancel BMF just to prove a point, no matter how much money he loses. Now, Big Meech is not the first person Rick Ross has left out to dry. He did the same thing to his own crew, leaving them to take hits in Canada, only to show up later saying he was just testing their strength. That is a cold move for real. But that has been Rick Ross style from the start. Even Whack 100 called him out for being the real villain in this whole mess with 50 and Big Meech. He saw what was happening from the very beginning and figured out the game right away. Rick Ross may have said he wanted to help Big Meech get back on track, but in the end, it was just empty words. Let's be honest, Whack 100 made a solid point. If Rick Ross truly cared about helping Big Meech, he would have kept their business private. Instead, he was out there dissing 50 Cent and talking about getting the rights to the BMF series, even though everyone knew he never actually planned to do anything with it. Now, Ross has completely disappeared from Big Meech's life. The only thing he is focused on these days is whatever will fill his own pockets. Big Meech is not a part of that picture anymore. And here is something interesting. Word on the street is that Rick Ross might have been the real reason Big Meech's welcome home party got shut down. Everyone thought it was 50 Cent pulling the strings, but the reason is simple. Rick Ross did not want Meech to get all the attention from that concert and make a big comeback. Instead, Ross preferred that Meech stayed in his shadow while Ross played the good guy for the world to see. When 50 posted something and then quickly deleted it, talking about all of this, it only made things worse. I had nothing to do with this. Stop calling my phone. I hope you are having a nice day. Happy Valentine's Day. I am stronger than you think. A lot of people did not believe him, but now everything is starting to make sense. Big Meech really thought Rick Ross was on his side, especially after that BMF track where Ross said, "I think I am Big Meech." Isn't that something? But let me give you something to think about. What if Rick Ross actually wanted to be Big Meech? Seriously, think about it. Ross has a history of building his entire brand off other people's identities, especially when they are big names in rap. That is just the truth. He took his name from the real Rick Ross, a well-known kingpin who was in prison when Ross started his rise. And let us not forget, when the real Rick Ross was released, he called out Ross and even tried to sue him. This whole situation is crazy, and it raises a lot of questions about loyalty and ambition in the game. How do you feel about the rapper Rick Ross having the same name? Well, the fact that he stole my name, it's not just that we have the same name, he actually took my whole story, my identity, everything. He built his whole career off my legacy. Let me explain. This all started back in 2005. By 2010, the real Rick Ross, the one who was running a big empire in the 80s, sued the rapper Rick Ross for trademark infringement and identity theft. But the rapper Rick Ross said it was all a lie and claimed that he came up with the name himself. Fast forward to 2013, and a judge ended up siding with the rapper. Let's be honest, though, Rick Ross, the rapper, was much richer, way more famous, and he was a former cop. So the odds were really in his favor. And get this, the judge decided that Ross' use of the name was protected by the First Amendment, which meant that the real Rick Ross lost the case. So, William Leonard Roberts too got to keep that name with no problem. Now that you know all of this, how do you feel about what happened? It is hard to believe that Rick Ross was actually trying to do something genuine with Big Meech. In the song, BMF, he rapped, "I think I am Big Meech," which seemed like a big statement. After that, Ross started acting friendly with Meech, making it look like he was supporting him. But when it came time to actually help Meech bounce back and make a real comeback, the problem here is that while Ross was using these names to elevate himself, he wasn't actually doing anything meaningful to help the people he was talking about. Instead of working with them or doing something to actually support their causes, he was just using them for his own personal gain. He never stood up for Hoover when it mattered, and now it looks like he is doing the same thing to Big Meech. In both cases, Ross acted like he was all in, acting friendly and supportive. He made a big show of being close with these men, but when the time came for real action, he disappeared. It's like he was only around when it was convenient for him, using these connections to get more attention and more clout. It almost makes you wonder if Ross was never really interested in helping anyone other than himself. Another example of this behavior is when Ross started talking about buying 50 Cent's music rights. At one point, Ross claimed that he was going to buy 50 Cent's masters, which made a lot of noise at the time. But when it came down to it, it seems like Ross was just talking. He was making bold claims to stir things up, but when the moment came to back up those words with real action, nothing happened. The whole situation looked like a play for attention, not a serious business move. It is also important to look at the bigger picture here. Ross seems to have a pattern of taking advantage of other people's names and stories. He built his career around the image of being a big-time hustler and drug dealer, but in reality, he doesn't seem to have lived that life. Instead, he borrowed the stories of others, like the real Rick Ross, and used them to create a persona. When the real Rick Ross called him out and sued him for using his name, it became clear that Ross wasn't living the life he was rapping about. He was just borrowing the story to make himself more marketable. What is even more telling is how Ross deals with people when they are no longer useful to him. Once someone has outlived their purpose in his eyes, he cuts ties with them and moves on to the next thing. Whether it is Big Meech or Larry Hoover, once Ross got what he needed from these men, he stopped caring. He doesn't stick around to help or show support when it is needed. Big Meech, for example, had a chance to make a real comeback after being released from prison. Ross, who had been close to him, could have helped him in that process. Instead, Ross turned his back. Meech was out here trying to rebuild, and Ross acted like he had his back, but when it came to actually supporting him, he disappeared. It makes you question Ross's intentions all along. Was he ever really trying to help, or was he just using the situation for his own gain? The thing about Ross is that he seems to have learned how to play the game. He knows how to get people to pay attention, and he knows how to make a name for himself. But when it comes to loyalty and support, Ross falls short. He is great at creating a persona and getting people to believe he is something he is not, but when the chips are down, he shows his true colors. It is also worth noting how Ross handles his public image. He is very careful about how he is seen by his fans and the public. He wants to maintain a certain image, one that shows him as a big boss, a successful businessman, and a man of power. But the truth is, his actions often speak louder than his words. His loyalty is questionable, and it is clear that he is more interested in maintaining his reputation than actually standing by the people he claims to care about. At the end of the day, this entire situation just shows that Rick Ross is more about the image than about loyalty or integrity. Whether it's Big Meech or Larry Hoover, Ross has shown that he will use anyone he can to build his own name. But when it comes time to actually show support, he is nowhere to be found. He might be good at making moves, but when it comes to real, meaningful action, Ross falls short. In conclusion, the situation with Rick Ross and Big Meech is just another example of Ross using people for his own gain. He is quick to claim relationships and alliances with people, but when it's time to back up those claims with real action, he disappeared. And many say he messed up and was too scared to show up and truly support Hoover. And now here we are again, with history repeating itself. No wonder 50 Cent once said he never respected Rick Ross as a person. Let's be honest, the guy could turn on you at any moment. Do you think there is anything to respect about his career? No, there is nothing there. 50 Cent never wanted to work with him. You can probably picture 50 sitting back and laughing at all the chaos because he hardly had to do anything for things to turn upside down while he is out there focusing on his own business. Big Meech and Lil Meech are going from one celebrity to another, apparently asking for some help just to stay afloat. But here's the wild part. Rick Ross was out there throwing shade, calling 50 Cent broke and laughing, thinking that 50 could not get the loan for his movie studio. But guess what? Just a few days ago, that loan got approved, and now Ross is seeing that 50 is really not the person to mess with. Fans believe that Rick Ross is probably really angry, especially since just weeks ago he was bragging about buying 50's masters. Looking back now, that whole claim seems pretty silly. When it comes to Lil Meech and Big Meech, it is clear that some lessons have finally started to make sense. But it might be too late for 50 to bring Lil Meech back into the group or help Big Meech right now. One person who has been speaking up through all of this is Zip, and he has been making sure everyone knows what is going on. From the very beginning, people could see that 50 Cent knew something about Big Meech. He spotted the drama unfolding and called it early, predicting that things would get messy, with Rick Ross eventually turning on Big Meech. Now, fast forward to today, and a lot of fans are talking about it. The general feeling is that Meech is pretty much done in the industry, especially after his chance for a big comeback got ruined. You would think that all the time Big Meech spent in prison would have made him smarter, or at least shown him a better way to handle things on the outside. But honestly, it seems like it did the opposite. One person even said, "Let me get this straight. A former corrections officer turning on someone who spent time in prison? Who could have predicted that?" And then a two-faced guy gets played by another two-faced guy? That is called karma, and it is served fresh. But seriously, I want to hear what you all think about all of this.